Joining us now from his home, Lowell Cohn, longtime writer for the San Francisco Chronicle and the Press Democrat. And Lowell, how is life without deadlines?
I can sleep at night, Dennis. When I had deadlines, I was always, oh my God, I don't have a topic. What am I going to do? My wife would call a penalty on me, kick me out of bed. Now, there are many things that are nice about retirement, but not having a deadline is number one.
Yeah, I can tell through reading the book. But as I read this book, thought came to me, it's a must read for athletes, for coaches, and aspiring journalists, because it reveals, Lowell, the good, the bad, and the ugly of sports journalism. What do you miss most about, and what do you miss least about it?
Oh, that's so interesting. What I miss most about it is being with my friends in the press box or on the road and actually writing. I love to write. What I miss least about it will surprise you. It's waiting for athletes. You've done it as well. How much of our lives have we lost when the guy says, just a minute, I can't talk to you now, and what he's putting on is lotion? You know what I mean? Or he's looking at his cell phone. And you're on deadline, you're about to faint, and he's on his cell phone. Dennis, I don't miss that at all.
You know, you just led me into one of the parts of the book, and I have to set this question up with myself at spring training with Channel 7's Mike Schumann at the time, and we were trying to get an interview with Tim Lincecum. So Schumann goes up to Lincecum and gets blown off. The next day, Mike says, Dennis, you go talk to Lincecum. I got blown off. And this goes on for 3 days. We never got the interview. Now, Lowell Cohn had a really interesting approach. Can you share that with the audience, Lowell?
Without using a curse word.
Yeah.
I wanted to interview Tim, and it was early. You got to get there early in the morning. And he was sitting at his locker, and he had this body language like, don't come near me. So then I went out, and they have an eating room. And he came toward the eating room. And I said, Tim, may I interview, or should I just go screw myself? Although that wasn't the word I used. And he looked at me, and he was like a kid. And he said, oh, God, I would never say that to you. Come on, what do you need? And he gave me a great interview.
The longest chapter of your book, Lowell, deals with Colin Kaepernick. And you actually wrote a disclaimer about your dislike and saying, quote, he was self-centered juvenile as a player. In your opinion, Lowell, as objective as you can be, who or what ended his career, the NFL or Kaepernick?
Boy, that's a brilliant question. Could I say both? I think, let's be honest, the NFL didn't really want him anymore. They felt from their point of view that he was very controversial. But I also think, finally, and I could be wrong, he was not particularly interested in learning to be a good quarterback. He was more interested in being a famous person. And he became the most famous athlete in America, maybe since Muhammad Ali. And in that regard, he succeeded. And also, he called attention to very important things. I would say he was ahead of his time. So I would say they both ended his career. It was mutual.
The foreword, Lowell, is written by Steve Young. He writes something I think is very significant about the need for sports journalism. I'm going to quote him. Nothing is worse than internal marketing. Is death to great organizations. It's when they're telling each other that we're all great and everything is fine. Given, Lowell, a team's desire to control the message, their own websites, their own commentators, their own production departments, their paid relationships with television stations, including KPIX, do you have concerns about the current state of objective journalism?
More than concerns. I'm sometimes a little discouraged about it. I covered the great 49er teams that won 5 Super Bowls. I didn't always write complimentary things. I wasn't in their public relations department. I sometimes criticized Bill Walsh. You have to tell the truth. You can't be writing propaganda to stay on the team's good side so they'll like you. And if you become a propagandist, fine, you get paid for that, but I don't think you're any longer a journalist. And I see that happening more and more in sports right now, sports journalism.
By the way, Jim Harbaugh wrote a touching letter and he sent that to you upon your retirement. When you opened that letter from Harbaugh, what was your reaction?
I was blown away. Now, I know Jim Harbaugh very well because I covered him at Stanford and then I covered him at the 49ers. But Dennis, there was always an edge to us. He's a very feisty person. And I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We grow up being feisty, but we always got a giggle with each other. And as you know, Dennis, my son also covers the 49ers. Grant, he covers them now for Sports Illustrated. So Grant and I would be in the press conferences with Jim Harbaugh together. And little did I know the whole time he was observing us and admiring our relationship, father and son. He wrote me such, I want to say, a sweet, kind, emotional letter about what it's like for him to look at Lowell and Grant, father and son. It blew me away, and I never knew there were those complex emotional levels to Jim Harbaugh, and I didn't know he was that nice.
Book is called Gloves Off, and Lowell, during this entire interview, I want to thank you for not saying or yelling "share" during this interview.
Do you want me to explain that?
You know what? I'm going to go to a commercial break telling me if people want to understand what share means, you got to buy the book. How's that, Lowell?
Dennis, this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lowell.